Coming up next on Backchecking the Bolts.
That's not John Tortorella right there.
He's going to make them block shots.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Tammy Panarin, you're going to be blocking shots, but he kind of raises your middling players up, but he brings down, some of your top end talent. That being said, if you're a top end talent who shows that you can play responsibly, he's going to let you play as much as you want.
Welcome to Backchecking the Bolts. Backchecking the Bolts is your cup of coffee to get you the latest on the Tampa Bay Lightning. Join host Jason Linkus and the managing editor of Raw Charge, Justin Godfrey, as they break down the Lightning's most recent games and go beyond the highlights, telling you what the box scores didn't. It's time to drop the puck.
Welcome to Backchecking the Bolts. Hi, everybody. I'm your host, Jason Linkus, and I'm here with the managing editor of Raw Charge. He is Justin Godfrey. You can see him at www.rawcharge.com. On today's episode, we are going to recap this weekend's games against Ottawa and Nashville. We're going to preview the upcoming Montreal game on Tuesday night. And I'm going to ask Justin, is this a good possible first-round playoff matchup? John Tortorella is back in the league. Yes, it's another team, and John Tortorella, with 8 games left, is taking over the Vegas Golden Knights. We'll also have the Nurture Marketing Trivia question of the day, and we'll find out what's new at Raw Charge. Now I'm going to bring in the managing editor of Raw Charge. He's Justin Godfrey. Justin, quick thoughts on the weekend series. What did you think?
Hey, 4 points is 4 points, right? It doesn't matter how you get them, just as long as you put them in the bank. And I think I wouldn't quite call them carbon copy games, but a lot of similarities of what we've been seeing over the last week. Lightning get down early, rally back, save their best 2 periods for the last 2 periods, and then pick up 2 points and move on with their lives. A lot of hockey this weekend, some of it good, a lot of it bad, but in the end, 4 points are 4 points, and you can't ask for anything else this time of year.
They've had points in 8 straight games ever since they went out west. But Justin, in these 2 games, let's start with the Ottawa game. Once again, it was another slow first period start. This time, Dylan Cousins scored right off the bat against Vasilevsky, one that he would like back. That was not a good goal.
It definitely hasn't been the goaltender's fault for most of this little weird stretch that they're in, but that one, and it's funny because you spend 48 hours talking about the Lightning need better starts. The Lightning need better starts. They have to get out there and you have to take it to the other team, and then 18 seconds in, they're down 1-0. 4 minutes in, they're down 2-0, and you're like, oh, great, yeah, awesome. This is a bit, right, guys? You're just like, you're just doing this for fun at this point. But yeah, they're kind of like the boxer that needs to get punched in the face, before they wake up and realize they're in a fight. It's such a change in style of play between the first period, second period, third periods that it's just so, I don't know if I've seen a Jekyll and Hyde team like this in quite such a time, because that Ottawa game, I mean, they absolutely dominated after, the second period on, and third period against Nashville was all Lightning last night. So it's, it's just a tale of 2 teams, as I keep throwing out the literary references. Thanks for that liberal arts education, guys. It's just a really interesting stretch, and watching them play. I don't know what to make of it, but they're going to figure it out. As someone who's watched hockey for a while, I would rather have a bad first period than a bad third period. So it's not like they're getting leads and then giving them away. Yes, they're down early, but this is a veteran team, a lot of experience on it. They don't get rattled. So it's nice to see a team that can play from behind sometimes, especially when the playoffs come around. You're gonna be in this situation where you're down in the second period. Can you rally back? And they're showing that they can. If we're gonna pull any positive out of this, you'd like to see the way they respond to these goals and these deficits. So hopefully they can keep it going and then mix in a few leads every once in a while.
Something that was different in this weekend set was there was no Nikita Kucherov. Kucherov was out with an illness, missed both games. So there's going to be some line juggling. What did you see with the lines that were different with Kucherov out of the lineup?
I think 5-on-5, it was okay. Cooper really kind of mixed things up. I mean, I think we saw Corey Perry up on the top line for a little bit, playing with, Hagel and Cirelli. God, how can I forget Anthony Cirelli? But I think you saw, a little bit of line juggling.
Early in the morning, bud.
Exactly, yeah. It's been a long, Cooper's talking about fatigue. I know what the boy's talking about. It's not that much different in real life here. Anyways, a lot of line juggling. I think you mostly saw it on the power play, especially against Nashville. They managed to score a goal on the power play against Ottawa. But like against Nashville, you just saw how important he is, in terms of moving the puck around. The Lightning were really forced to just kind of whip it around the perimeter, make a lot of passes. Their entries weren't as good. That's kind of part of his underrated game, is his ability to get the puck into the zone and set them up. So you missed a lot of that. I thought they played pretty well without him. They kept scoring goals. They scored, 7 goals? I don't know if you caught the end of the game, but a little bit of Better's bad luck at the end.
Jay Gensel?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You had the Lightning -1.5. You were not a happy man yesterday, or person yesterday. So, yeah. They still
I'm not going to lie. After the second period, I saw that in Pennsylvania, the Lightning were -130 on the money line. And so I grabbed that. And they actually played a pretty good third period, especially early on. They were all over Nashville. After they got the lead, then they sort of sat back a little bit and just made sure they protected it. Yesterday, I thought Johansson played really well. I thought he played a really good first period. The 2 goals, I'm still not sure how the first one was allowed. Again, we talked about NHL goaltender interference is like saying what a catch is in the NFL. I'm not sure how a goalie who gets plowed into, that goal is allowed. I'm sorry, I'm just not.
They said it on the ice. It was Chernak's fault. I mean, at the same token, you can't have your defender shove another guy into your goalie and expect, it not to count. So, I don't think Chernak had a really great game against Nashville. He had that play where he shoved the young kid into Johansson. And then at the end, he took a bad penalty. You're protecting a lead. You get a 2-minute penalty, and then you get a 10-minute thrown on top of it. So he wasn't on the ice for the last 11 minutes. And then the Lightning go and take a few more penalties. They got to kill off a couple of Nashville power plays without one of their best defenders. So, yeah, that wasn't great. But, yeah, Johansson was fantastic. He struggled his first couple of starts coming out of the break, but I thought he played pretty well in his last outing, at least for the back half of it. And then, yeah, he made a bunch of saves in the first period, kept the Lightning into it. Cooper actually mentioned it in his press conference yesterday, both Johansson and Vasilevsky. Yes, the Lightning have been getting behind, but it's the saves that these two are making with that deficit that are keeping the Lightning in the game until they figure out their offense. Thought Vasilevsky did that against Ottawa. After that second goal that he gave up, he was lights out. Even both goals that Johansson gave up yesterday, the first one, he's got a hockey player shoved into him and the puck just trickles under him. And then the second one was a double deflection. I think Forsberg got credit for it, but
Forsberg got credit for the goal. He tipped it up high, and then it hit off of board and the Stu.
Yeah, and it hit like 300 things on the way in, so you can't fault a goaltender for that. So, Johansson, he's the life of a backup goalie, man. It's you sit for 2 weeks, and then you have to come out and in a stretch like this, you're trying to get your team points, and he did a really great job last night. It'll be interesting to see how they use him down the stretch. We know Vasilevsky never wants to come out of the game. We know there's a couple more back-to-backs. Johansson's getting at least 2 more starts, but, Vasi's kind of in that 55 to, 56 game mark right now. How much do you want to use him down the stretch? I wouldn't be surprised to see Johansson start that Rangers game, the last game of the season. That way you can give, Vasi like a 4-day break, if my math works out correctly, before the playoffs start. Hanson's got to be important. So he always is. He's this guy who just gives them a chance to win every time he goes out there, and he's kind of back to that now.
I want to go back to the Ottawa game on Saturday night. They fall down 2-0, as you mentioned early. Dylan Cousins and Jordan Spence picked up early goals for Ottawa. The first period, they were outplayed dramatically. The second period, it was all Lightning. Gensel and Hagel over the weekend really played well. They were scoring. With Kucherov being out, how important is it for Gensel to start becoming a little bit more of a playmaker? When he's out there right now, he's expected to score, but with the power play with Gensel out there and Kucherov not, Gensel's expected to take up a little more of that half wall. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, you're going to see him come out. When Kuch is out there on the power play, Gensel's down low. He has the option to move the puck around or step out. And I thought that was a big thing when the Lightning power play was struggling is Gensel's play down low. He would step out a few times and then open up that space. But like you said, now that Kucherov, hasn't played, he's not the guy who gets to stand in front of the net now and deflect pucks. He does have to come out a little bit more, distribute the puck a little bit more. And I thought he did a really good job on Hagel's goal against Nashville. Ryan O'Reilly's trying to kind of skate the puck out, tries to pass it up the boards, and Gensel picks it off and then feeds it back to the middle. So Gensel's just an interesting player because if you look at him, you're like, what does he do really well? And I don't know if there's anything that stands out about his game other than, probably his hockey IQ. He just knows how to go right to where he needs to be to score. I mean, his shot's not exactly lethal. He's not a big dude. His passing's pretty good, but it's not. He's just one of these guys who knows how, as simple as it sounds, he just knows how to play hockey and he knows where he needs to be. And he's kind of shown it over the last 2 games, like you said. I mean, he's shown it since he signed that deal with the Lightning. I don't know if there's an argument. I know it's only 2 years into it, but I think it's probably at least under the cap area, the best free agent signing that the Lightning have made. And yes, people are going to quibble and say, well, technically they traded for him, but he was the number 1 free agent on the market. They just jumped the gun a couple days to bring him in. But what he's brought to that team, the depth that he's added in that top 6 is something that they really, really needed. And that's why I think it's, like I said, probably the best signing that they've made.
The one thing I'll say about Jake Gensel, and he played in Pittsburgh, and I got to see him play pretty much every game, he is really good at creating space. He's one of those guys that just knows where to go to get the puck. It's that innate ability. Not everybody has it, but he does. And his shot is quick. He gets his shot off fast. You saw it on the breakaway in the Ottawa game. He had a guy draped all over him, yet he's able to turn that puck over and roof it. It's just that innate ability. It's why he's got 300 goals in the league. When he was in Pittsburgh, I think there was thought by some people in the media that he got to that goal scoring level because of Sidney Crosby. And I think now has proved it without a doubt that he is a goal scorer. It's not just being with Sidney Crosby.
Yeah, I always find that argument funny. It's like, well, he's only good because he plays with this guy. And it's like, yeah, but I've kind of watched Pittsburgh a lot, just being friends with you. You kind of, take interest in your friend's team. How many people have played with Sidney Crosby who couldn't score? The same thing with like LeCavier back in the day. How many people were on his line that couldn't score? And there is an ability, a talent that you need to be able to play with these top end players and be productive. I mean, it's not like you just go out there and they bounce the puck off of you for, 30 goals. Maybe Lemieux could do that, but I don't know if Crosby's quite that good yet.
Hey, Robbie Brown had 49 goals in 1988-89, but I will say this. Robbie Brown, even though he couldn't skate, Robbie Brown had tremendous hands. You don't get 49 goals in the NHL by being just a body. You have to have ability.
Exactly. I mean, I think that's kind of the Corey Perry stage right now is, the guy can't skate. He may be affectionately known as the boat anchor over at Raw Charge, but the guy has that innate ability to be kind of like Gensel in the right spot at the right time, and then has the hands to put the goals in. Jake's been great. It's fun to watch him because he is such a small player. You kind of worry about, he makes his living in front of the net, but he never seems to get destroyed. You don't see him taking a ton of hits. There were a couple against the Florida game, which was hilarious when, he got into his first career fight because Mikkola was basically hit him with a forearm shiver. He's a tough guy. He plays bigger than he is, which is it speaks to your point on that breakaway. He's not a big guy, but he has that ability to keep people away from the puck when it's on his stick. So yeah, it's been fun to watch him play here. The last couple games, he's stepped up. I thought Hagel was the best player on the ice against Nashville. He probably should have had.
He was good. Goals. He was really good, especially in the third.
He had that breakaway where it's always impressive when you hit 2 posts. Hitting 1 post is one thing, but when you manage to hit both of them and the puck doesn't go in, you gotta wonder what you did to make the goalie gods
the hockey
mad.
gods,
the hockey gods upset. Yeah, but that's the thing with Hagel is like he doesn't really get frustrated. I mean, he gets angry, that's for sure, but he doesn't stop playing and he's going to keep grinding away, and that's kind of what he did last night. And that was the move he made on the goal is so subtle, but it was so good. I mean, he's got Roman Josi in front of him, probably one of the best defenders over the last 10 years. Freezes him, freezes the goaltender, and then snaps that shot in. I think everybody in the ice kind of thought Hagel was going to pass from the slot. I think it was Perry head off to his left. So, you can see the indecision on Josi's face after the goal. He kind of like raises his head to the sky, but it was just a really nice play. And Hagel does that. I mean, Gensel does that. Sorelli's like that. I mean, you got these guys that go to the front of the net. They're not the biggest guys in the world, but they find their space, they make their space, and they score. So when Kucherov is out, they've been able to step up and keep the offense rolling.
Before we look forward, I want to mention something about the Ottawa game. Steve Santini played less than 2 minutes. Was that a coach's decision, or was there a reason behind that?
It seems like it. Kind of went back and looked at a couple of his shifts. He had a kind of a bad turnover in his last shift, but it definitely didn't look like an injury. I think he just kind of got lost on the bench. The Lightning went 11-7 against Ottawa. Nick Paul was out and Kucherov was out. Both of them were dealing with an illness, so they rotated in that extra defenseman. And I think with the way Emil Lilleberg and Charles-Edouard Destoux were playing,
who were really good on Saturday.
They were really good on Saturday. Destoux was good on Sunday as well. I think Cooper just didn't want to mess with that. So unfortunately for Santini, he kind of got, left on the bench a little bit. But yeah, I didn't see anything as far as an injury. Like I said, there's maybe the one turnover. Cooper wasn't happy about it. They cut to him on the bench, and he was gesticulating wildly about something. But I don't think it was like you're getting pulled. I just think it was with the way the game was going. The Lightning were still chasing the deficit at that point, and then once they got rolling, like I said, I think they kind of wanted to keep the pairings as they were. So it is the life of the seventh defenseman.
I was just surprised, considering the compressed schedule that we talked about. You would think that, hey, let's try to work him in a little bit just to get some minutes off of other guys. But you did mention Destoux and Lilleberg. And when I was watching the game on Saturday, they were both really good. I thought that might have been one of Destoux's best games I've seen him play.
He's on a stretch right now. Yeah, he's playing really well. And you can see why. The guy doesn't have a lot of NHL experience, but he's played in the SHL. He's played all over the world. He's been defender. He was named defender of the league over the SHL a couple years ago, I think. So the guy's got the hockey IQ, and we kind of talked about it last podcast, where you have to level up your game as the season goes on, and he's done a really great job, especially with Hedman out. The decisions he's making are a lot better. He kind of went through, I think, a little slump a few weeks ago when the Lightning were slumping as well. I thought he was making some, I don't know if they were bad decisions, but risky decisions when he didn't have to. And you're always going to get that. He is an offensive-minded defender. He's going to take chances.
They're risk takers.
They're risk takers. It's going to happen. And I think sometimes you learn through your mistakes, and he's kind of been doing that. But yeah, he stepped up. Lilleberg, who I thought was kind of struggling before he got hurt this year and then just never really found it. His best stretch of the season has been over the last 2 weeks. Cooper talks about it all the time. Somebody's got to step up. If your star players are injured, somebody's got to step up, and the Lightning have been doing it all year. So it's been fun to watch. These guys come up, they're getting the experience. It's going to matter in the postseason. Hopefully Hedman's back by then, but now you have this depth built in. So we're going to see how it goes from here. But yeah, everybody's been stepping up. They just got to figure out the first periods. I mean, they had been playing these first periods even. Everyone would be talking about how they're, on a, like you said, 8-game point streak or whatever. Just the glaring, huge, bedazzled elephant in the room right now that they can't get these starts under the way. So once they figure that out, and they will, there's still enough time in the season left to kind of get their game to 100%.
Justin, we just recapped this weekend's games. Now let's take a look ahead. The Montreal Canadiens come into Tampa only 4 points out of first place. They've played the same number of games as the Lightning, 73. Right now, Tampa's tied with Buffalo. Buffalo's played one extra game. Justin, one, it's a big game, but two, tell us a little bit about the Canadiens.
Yeah, I mean, fast young team, fun to watch. The Lightning played them twice in December at the beginning of the month. They kind of blew them off the map a little bit with a 6-1 win. Then the 28th of December, 5-4 shootout win for the Lightning. So if nothing else, the game should be entertaining. They're kind of taking on the style of their coach. Old friend Marty St. Louis still behind the bench, the Silver Fox himself. They're a hard team to play against. They're fast. They're going to run you around. Cole Caulfield is up to 46 goals now on the year.
46.
You talk about one of the most underrated scorers in the league. I mean, this kid doesn't get enough credit for how good he is. Then you got Nick Suzuki's 91 points. Demidov has come in, kind of doing everything you want a rookie to do. He's got 41 helpers on the year. So they're in that kind of beautiful mix of a lot of young talent on the rise. A little bit of veteran leadership in there as well. They got the Josh Andersons of the world, Alex Newhook, contributing down the lineup. Good old Brendan Gallagher still running around
I
doing
want to
Brendan
talk real
Gallagher
quick
things.
about Anderson, and not to
Yeah,
interrupt you, but Anderson was one of those guys the last couple of years you always heard of him on the trade block.
yeah, yeah.
All of a
It's
sudden, Montreal finds their game, and he has a nice role within this team. Justin, I want to ask you, Montreal plays an up-tempo game. That's what's given Tampa trouble at times, especially when they went through the little bit of a spell right after the Olympic break. Is this a good matchup for Tampa?
it's a tough matchup for him. The Lightning have gotten a little bit better at dealing with speed. I mean, this has been something that it's not just this year where teams with speed have troubled them. Teams that are going to fly the zone, bring the puck down through transition, and then push their defenders back and always giving the Lightning trouble. Or if they're quick in on the forecheck, the Lightning, especially their defense, is not exactly known for their speed. So if you're a young fast forward, you can kind of burn them. You can turn them on your entries. You can get to that puck first down low and just cause a little bit of chaos in the zone. So I think what the Lightning have to do, and it's a good test for them, if you stay in your defensive structure, if you just do your assigned roles, be where you're supposed to be, you can mitigate that speed a little bit. So it'll be good to make sure the Lightning aren't chasing the puck. Part of the problems that they've been running into, especially in the first periods here, is they kind of get caught puck watching. Everyone collapses in on the puck carrier, leaving the backside open. We saw it against Ottawa. Some of the chances that didn't go in, Ottawa, I think the Seattle game, you saw a lot of it, especially the second one. You kind of get focused on the puck carrier, forget about the guy behind him. That pass comes out, he's wide open, gets a great A chance. So that's what the Montreal is going to try and do to the Lightning. So it'll be a good test for them. Hopefully, they can kind of help out. The matchup should be pretty good. It'll be interesting to see how Cooper assigns his top line, that kind of Gord defensive line, to see how they do. But yeah, it's going to be a good challenge. And, this is looking like a possible first round matchup for the Lightning. So it'll be a good test for them.
You'd mentioned Montreal could be a possible first round matchup. In your opinion, real quick, best possible first round matchup and worst possible first round matchup?
Not to pick on a team that's near and dear to your heart, but if you do have a little bit of a crossover, I do think Pittsburgh, probably at the rate they're going right now, is the best matchup for the Lightning. Just due to their issues down the middle, some of the players, the style of game they play, I think kind of fits right in with what the Lightning want to go up against, and would play to the Lightning strengths. I think Pittsburgh would be, if the Lightning get that top seed, and then Pittsburgh ends up somewhere in the wild card, then that could be a pretty good matchup for them.
I don't disagree with
Yeah.
you there, especially as injured as they are down the middle. I do think the Penguins are a little bit more tenacious than people realize on their third and fourth lines, but they're going to have some matchup issues, especially with the current injury situation. I still think the Penguins, if they make it, are going to be in one of those wild card spots. They play the Islanders coming up. I think it's going to determine who is going to be in the second spot in the Metro Division. But Justin, you talked about the best. Who do you think is the toughest matchup?
It's being kind of a wonky way to get there, but if they somehow ended up against Buffalo in the first round, I think we've seen it in the regular season games against them. They got one more against them. They got one more in a couple weeks against Buffalo, but Buffalo's giving them fits. Again, you get back to that fast style of play. Buffalo's just really good. You kind of keep waiting for the shoe to drop for them. They're not supposed to be this good, based on recent history, but they're just a good team. It's long enough in the season, deep enough in the season, that they're going to be one of the teams to beat in the Eastern Conference. They're going to be up there with the Lightning as far as a tough out. I just don't think their style of play matches really well with the Lightning, so they're going to give them fits. But yeah, so I think they're at the bottom of the list of teams I want to preview against, kind of with Columbus as well. Again, I don't know why the Lightning struggle against Columbus. You look at them and you're like, they're Columbus, man. They're good. They got some young
They
talent,
do the
but
little things.
yeah,
They chip out pucks when they're supposed to. They don't take a lot of chances. And Tampa is a team that, hey, when you have offensive talent, you're going to take a few more chances because you want to let that offensive talent shine.
Yeah.
When that happens, those counter-punching teams can give you fits, and I think that's exactly why Columbus gives Tampa trouble, and they have for quite some time, back to when a guy we're going to talk about here in a couple seconds. John Tortorella was their coach. And Justin, he's back in the league.
You just
Now,
can't get rid of the man. Torts is going to be there, man.
Before we talk about his role with the Vegas Golden Knights, I'm going to get to the Nurture Marketing trivia question of the day.
Oh, God.
Thanks to Nurture Marketing. That's right, Justin. As I can see your reaction, you're
and
like,
the
hey,
72 coaches that have come between John Tortorella and Go ahead, sir.
This one will be a little bit different, but thanks to Nurture Marketing, we ask one question each podcast. I ask it to Justin. He gives the answer. When he gives the answer, email backcheckingthebolts@yahoo.com for your entry to win a Nikita Kucherov jersey, compliments of Nurture Marketing. Justin, today's question. John Tortorella has coached 6 teams in the NHL. Name them.
Okay. Of course, we're going to go with the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Number 1 on the board.
All right. See if I can remember his career path. The New York Rangers.
That is correct. Number 2.
Vancouver Canucks.
Okay, now when I came up with this question, I was wondering if you were going to remember the Canucks because he only spent 1 season there.
Yep.
So the Vancouver Canucks is number 3.
All right. Columbus.
That is number 4. He had a nice stint in Columbus. He had some really good teams in 2016 and in 2017.
I think they were a team that kind of fit his style of play. Kind of the way I've always described Tortorella is he's going to bring the best out of B and C level players. He's going to make them better. The trade-off to that is he's going to bring his star players back a little bit. He's going to force them to play a more defensive style hockey. You talked about the Lightning letting their offensive players flow and make their mistakes. That's not John Tortorella right there.
He's going to make them block shots.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Tammy Panarin, you're going to be blocking shots, buddy. So get used to it. Yeah. So yeah, he kind of raises your middling players up, but he brings down some of your top end talent. That being said, if you're a top end talent who shows that you can play responsibly, he's going to let you play as much as you want. That was kind of the Marty St. Louis thing. There's the story of, Marty was on the 3rd, 4th line with the Lightning, and he's like, what can I do to get more playing time? And coach is like, be responsible and do what you need to do. And that's what Marty did. He gave him a chance, and he rolled out the offense, but stayed responsible defensively and, became the Marty St. Louis we all know and love. So it's an interesting dichotomy when you play for him. He gets a lot of press for his, post-game comments, but if you ever listen, he's one of my favorite coaches to listen to in a long-form interview. When he's breaking down hockey, it's always interesting to see how he does. So he's fun to listen to. A great
I always liked his back and forth with Larry Brooks.
Yeah, him and Larry Brooks never quite got along. And I think that kind of did.
And for those of you who don't know, Larry Brooks is the former New York Post reporter. He was the beat writer for the New York Rangers and covered the NHL. And those two used to just go at it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think that kind of takes away that, that kind of labels Tortorella as, kind of this jerk from time to time. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The guy could be a jerk. He's an old school coach, which doesn't really fly in today's NHL a lot. Like I said, if you listen to him, some of his longer interviews, and you can find him on YouTube where he's breaking down plays. It's fascinating to watch him break down a play. Craig Custance wrote a book a few years ago where he profiled a bunch of coaches, and Tortorella was one of them. And Custance talked about sitting in a room watching plays with Tortorella and just the way his mind works. He's going to bring that. He's going to bring a level of knowledge to the game, but he's going to make you play. He's going to force you to be responsible in your zone. It's an interesting match in Vegas with such a veteran team.
Well, Justin, you still have one more team.
Yeah, Philadelphia.
Philadelphia, and then Vegas, as you had just mentioned. So those 6 answers, Justin, we have Tampa, we have the Rangers, we have Vancouver, we have Philadelphia, we have Columbus, and now the Vegas Golden Knights. Email backcheckingthebolts@yahoo.com with one of those teams, and that will get you registered for the Nurture Marketing Nikita Kucherov jersey. So, Justin, he goes to Vegas. He's only signed through the remainder of this season. So there's no guarantee he's going to be the coach of Vegas next year. He's 67 years old right now.
Yeah.
So this could be a one and done. Vegas has really been struggling. Why did they make this move?
The timing is so weird. You'd think Bruce Cassidy would have been given a little bit more rope. I mean, they're still in a playoff spot.
He
They're going
won
to
a
make the
Stanley
playoff.
Cup with them.
Yeah, and it wasn't that long ago. I mean, it's only a couple years ago. We were looking it up earlier, at least according to Nights on Ice, which is one of those Vegas websites. You know, he led them to the Stanley Cup championship in 2023. He's never missed the playoffs in the 4 years he was there. He's 178, 99, and 43. Yes, they're struggling right now. They're in third place in the pillow fight division, to use Connor McDavid's term for it. But you get into playoffs, you go on a run, your goaltender gets hot. I thought they would at least give him through the playoffs. Now, if they had flamed out in the first round, okay, now you got a case to fire him. But the fact that they're 32, 26, and 16.
They
So
only
it's
have
a
80
decent record.
points.
Yeah, but so does everybody else in that division. You know,
They're just,
also
you mentioned, they're just fortunate they're in the Pacific.
Yeah, they're 3 wins
But-
away from winning the division, right? I mean, so it's
Yeah, but this team is, it's been banged up. It's not anywhere near as good as the Cup team a couple
Right.
years ago. I think the expectations are honestly
they
a little
are.
bit too high in Vegas right now.
Yeah, you wonder about that. What do they think this team is? You know, is Tortorella going to be able to push them over the edge? I don't know. He doesn't change their goaltending. He doesn't change their depth, or like you said, the injury. I mean, he's not a doctor, for God's sakes. So yeah, it's going to be seen. Maybe they felt they needed a little more discipline in the locker room. Who knows? Maybe they needed it. Maybe Cassidy was too much of a player's coach. And it's always fascinating when they make moves like this. You know, it's kind of like that LA Kings move coming out of the break. The timing is just so odd for it. So, but we'll see how it goes. They get that new coach bump, win 3 or 4 games, and then they look like geniuses. But yeah, they are. So they're in third place in the Pacific. They're 6 points behind Anaheim right now.
They're a couple points clear of the wild card
Yeah.
spot. Now,
So-
the one thing I do want to say, though, when you take a player's coach like Cassidy was in Vegas and you replace him with a disciplinarian like Tortorella, sometimes that voice in the locker room can change things. You start looking at that attention to detail a little bit differently by just hearing a different voice. But with 8 games left in the season, and I was going back into my recollection of people who had been fired late in the year. I remember in 2000, the Devils fired Robbie Fatorik. I think in middle of March, they replaced him with Larry Robinson. They go and win the Cup. Trader Phil, when he was the general manager and probably what got him fired in New York in 1989, fired Michel Bergeron with 2 games left, put himself in as the head coach, and lost the next 6. And next thing you know, he was fired. So it can go either way, but I understand you want to become more disciplined, more defensive oriented, and just have some more attention to detail. I look at this Vegas team. I don't see them as a Cup contender, whether it's with Tortorella or with Cassidy. And just bringing him in for a few games, I see that as a panic move, not, hey, let's try to right the ship.
We never know what's going on behind the scenes. Maybe they were talking to Cassidy and things blew up, and they just decided it wasn't something that can work moving forward, especially this year where you don't have a lot of days off. It's not like Tortorella can come in and install his system when you're playing every other day. Yeah.
You're just going for a different voice. That's all you're doing.
That's 100% right there. I mean, you're just looking for someone else behind the bench right now, a different message coming across. So we'll see how it pays off. It could end up being the move of the year. We never know. That's what I love about these things is we can speculate as much as we want, but until they actually go out on the ice and see how they perform, you just don't know. It is such a weak division that if they can win up, string up a couple wins with Tortorella, they get that number 1 seed. They get to avoid, Colorado and Dallas and Minnesota, the good teams in the West. Then, yeah, if they can avoid them till the conference final. Okay, now Tortorella's had a chance to get his message across, get his system in a little bit. Now we can kind of sneak one out. They feel like a first or second round team that's going to lose somewhere.
Justin, it's been nothing but games and recaps. You've been really busy over there at Raw Charge. Tell us what's going on.
The fatigue is real, man. The fatigue is real. So I'll be diving into taking a look at kind of what's going on over the last few games, kind of get a recap, end of another month. So we're going to look at the March numbers and see what kind of happened over the last few weeks. It feels like a tale of 2 different months. They got off to such a slow start, but then went on that road trip and really felt like they got the defense. If nothing else, they got their defense working again. So we'll look at the numbers and see what they have to say about that. Start working on those playoff previews, and we kind of talked about it a little bit today, and see what kind of matchups we got going on, and how the Lightning are going to close this thing out.
Here at Backchecking the Bolts, we will be back on Wednesday. We are going to recap the Bolts and the Montreal Canadiens, and they'll have 2 more games left on this current 7-game homestand against the Penguins and the Boston Bruins. We'll take a look at those 2 games moving forward. We'll also have our final Nurture Marketing Trivia question of the day for the month of March for the Nikita Kucherov jersey. First of all, we just hit 1,000 YouTube subscribers. Thank you very much. Please hit the like and subscribe button. For Justin Godfrey, who you could see at www.rawcharge.com, I'm Jason Linkus. Thank you for joining us today. We'll see you on Wednesday, and go Bolts.
Go Bolts.
Thank you for listening to Backchecking the Bolts. We are free and available on all platforms, including Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon, YouTube, and Deezer. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to subscribe and leave a review. You can follow Justin on Blue Sky at rawcharge.com. You can follow the show on X at Tampa_Bolts_pod, and on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Backchecking the Bolts. If you're interested in advertising on the show or partnering with us, you can find more information in the show notes or email Jason at backcheckingthebolts@yahoo.com.